Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast, where we fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Mattson and JJ. He's muted again. Beautiful.
Gosh dang it. I muted it because Taylor's doing some downstairs. Better read than dead. Moving on.
And Alec Burgess.
Case of the Mondays, people.
Let's get it.
We appreciate you tuning in. Everybody that's live watching us. If you're tuning in after the fact, we appreciate that too. Go ahead and hit the like, follow, subscribe, bell notification button, all those fun buttons. Click on them so you can keep up with all of our episodes live and not live. So, we're here to record an episode and talk about the Rings of Power. Let's dive in. I'm confused. So much going on. Alec had a great TikTok. Go check it out. Shit's funny, but it's a legit question. Who are the robed peeps? Who are these people?
I mean, their names don't give anything away. You have like the Dweller.
Yeah.
I already forgot the other two, but they're kind of similarly weird.
The Nomad and the Ascetic.
Yeah.
How do we know their names?
In the
IMDb.
We cheated.
Of course, always.
It's our job.
But they're very kind of obscure. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
And the prevailing opinion is that it was going to be some form of the cult or the Morgoth and Sauron's followers who worship them as gods.
Yeah.
Or Slim Shady, depending on who you ask.
Yeah. That was great. I had a good chuckle. I mean, I think they gave us like all the hint we need to realize that the stranger is the man in the moon. Like, I don't know how you could say any different with like the hint that they gave, because they had him on the screen. He did his weird little thing, and then all of a sudden the cuts to the weird moon, and then to him in the crater, and the crater kind of looking like the moon now that it's not on fire. So I think.
What do we mean, the man in the moon, though?
So he's a Maya,
Mm-hmm.
and the man in the moon is from the Hobbits.
Yeah.
Kind of how they perceive him. I think his name is Torian Terrain.
So for the uneducated common folk like myself, what does Maya mean, and how does this fit into Lord of the Rings lore?
So the Maiar is that's the wow. My brain just quit working. It's Alex, save me. Why
the Maya are like angels.
Yes. I don't know why I couldn't think of. Anyway. Yeah.
Okay. Is Sauron one of them?
Yeah, so Sauron's a Maya. And so is Gandalf, Sauron. And this man in the moon, his name or his Maya name is Tilion. And his Valar, I think, is Aule?
Ooh, that one I don't know.
I forget. But one of his Valar is pretty important to Middle Earth. So he's on the same power level as Gandalf, but he's not Gandalf.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've confirmed that. But this is an actual character from Lord of the Rings lore that it's not a made-up character.
Yeah.
Very obscure. Like, you only hear about him because of songs and like
and it's the
legend
Hobbits
stories
who are the Harfoots. So that's the connection there, is that he would be through their stories.
Okay.
So he's the Maya of the moon, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which
In
is where
fact,
the man in the moon comes from.
they actually like talk about he pilots the moon, or like the moon vessel, what makes the moon rotate around the earth. So it's a very interesting character, very obscure, but it's also very smart, because like I said, I think the initial lean towards that is to go, oh, he's going to be Gandalf, which based on everything we know with lore and how they're handling the lore, can't be. So, because he's a third age Maiar, but we'll see.
Okay.
But I am curious. They always pose a threat to Sauron and the not so nice elements of Middle Earth, the Maya. Because if they come out and they're not bad, but that's the thing with the Maya is they're like easily could go either way. Because I mean, you even see in here reading the book, especially in the books, Gandalf can kind of be a dick. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's this omnipotent, beautiful, wonderful person all the time. He's kind of an ass sometimes. So it's like, yeah, in fact, all of them, except for Radagast. Radagast is always just kind of nice.
That's because Radagast is high all the time.
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, it almost comes with that. Who's gonna stop him, right? Who's gonna tell them no? And that's where you get that almost little like arrogance or power hungry aspect.
Sure.
So yeah, I think it's Tilion, the Man in the Moon.
Yeah, I just think that shot was just too obvious. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I don't know, because the other problem that you run into is there was a weird shot that I thought was very unfortunate that made me think that Alec was on point with a time, like a weird timeline break when what's his name? The guy at the human, the Southron human that's it.
Halbrand.
Yeah, Halbrand. So he was talking about, you have no idea what we did or what, like, you know, what we had to do or whatnot. And then it cut back to the humans coming down from the tower to go see the orcs and, you know, kneel. And I'm like, so is he one of those kids? Is he one of those people? Do we have a weird timeline? And then after a while, I was like, no, they're just having him tell the story while they're getting ready to make that same choice that he made or his group made. But then I'm like, well, how old is this guy? Because I feel like that fight's been going on for a while, but who knows?
Yeah, well, it depends on, because we're in the Southlands, which are Mordor, but there's also, you know, Rhûn and Harad and Khand, which are south and east. So Adar and his orcs could have started there and just been slowly moving north and west.
That's fair.
So it could have he had a similar choice, just we don't know about it because it's happening in lands that are never talked about.
Fair. So I have a question for you, smart guy.
Uh-oh.
I was really intrigued by, and I didn't look it up because I wanted to save it to ask you in case you knew, but there was a lot of, like, on that map section where they showed the Harfoots and Nori and hers, like, traveling at the beginning. Are those different names? Are they ones that I should have known? Because I know right now in the Second Age, a lot of the cities and the areas on the map were different, and they have different names right now. But did you see any that you recognized?
No, not from like the Third Age, because if they're sticking true to lore, right? You have the Second Age, you have the sinking of Númenor, and you have kind of the breaking of the world. Okay. Where in Tolkien's Legendarium, the world goes from being flat to round.
Gotcha.
So the names and everything would be different than what we know. But I mean, there's Second Age names that make sense. Unless you dive deep into the lore, you're not going to really know a whole lot of them.
Yeah, and that's I was looking at it trying to figure out, like, based on what I knew of the map. So you can see Linden, which eventually becomes what's Elrond's joint? Lorien? Not that, yeah, Rivendell. And so I was looking at that going, what can I see? So I'm sitting there being like this silly guy, just pausing it, trying to look at the map going, what does this look like?
Right. But that scene and the song that's going the entire time was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you even had the little nod to Tolkien with not all who wander are lost. I was like, dude,
yeah.
I could jam to this song the entire time.
Yeah.
Just give me some more of that going.
Yeah.
All right. So I have some more questions about this whole mithril thing that I didn't know that they thought that getting this would save their people, because in the Lord of the Rings that I know, just knew mithril was a dope piece of chainmail armor that looked boss and saved Frodo's life to an extent. talk to me about that a little bit more, because that whole storyline had no idea, and it definitely makes the Elf King. I mean, he looks a little dark and suspicious, and I'm just curious about that whole lore and what I missed in there, because I didn't know we were going that way.
They did Gil-galad dirty.
Yeah,
But
they did.
okay, Mattson, you know, in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Arwen gives her necklace to Aragorn,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the Light of the Elder. That's what they're hinting at. Is
Mhm.
Mithril is used to make these necklaces so that they can stay in Middle Earth. So when she gives that up, she's essentially giving up the Light of the Eldar, which has been taken out by Sauron. And so you see the trees die and everything like that. So they use Mithril to make those necklaces.
So they need, because the light is going to be taken out, and unless they capture that light, then they just become mere mortals.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely made it sound a little sadder, like they're going to fade away. It's like, buddy, like, I mean, you're just going to die like the rest of humanity. Like, sorry, kind of not sorry, but interesting.
Well, they either die or they leave, and if they leave, Sauron has a much easier time conquering Middle Earth.
But
Yeah.
do they really care about that, though? That's the thing. You're just like, I feel like it's still kind of a selfish agenda.
I mean,
To be fair, yeah.
yeah, elves are always like fantasized when you start talking about like these kind of things, but they're kind of dicks too. Like at the end of the day,
Comes with a long life.
yeah, I mean, you live that long and you're like, yeah, they're just mortals. They don't know.
Because I thought originally when Celebrimbor, they were going about this, that we were setting it for the furnace at the tower, in which they still are, but I thought they were going to try and get some of this metal to help make these rings. At least that's where I thought it was going. Obviously, it's not, but maybe still is to an extent, but I thought we were going there.
Would have been nice, but they have to drag this out a little bit with their $1 billion budget.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, and I'm pretty sure that the 3 elven rings are made of
Yeah, I
mithril.
think so.
Yeah.
It would make sense to an extent. But it sounds like this tree there represents their life here in Middle Earth is slowly dying because Sauron is coming back. Therefore, they shouldn't have ever got rid of Galadriel, because the king knew that she was actually right.
Yeah, that was a weird. But again, I've always they did what they did with Galadriel to get her to Numenor, so that they can include Numenor into this story in the way that they have, which then gets Elendil and Theodore and that group, or at least part of that group. Because I thought Elendil's daughter came with them when they came over. So again, maybe this is they're going over, going to get their asses handed to them or beat them, and then after the fact, something weird goes down, and then there's another, or maybe she sneaks off with another group. I don't know. But this doesn't feel like the group that left Numenor doesn't feel like the group that's going to eventually found Gondor and Arnor. Like that just doesn't feel like that's
not enough
that
of
we're
them.
there, right? Because it was just like they were saying with 5 ships, 500 people. I'm like, that's not enough. It was like a third of the freaking Numenor that went or something like that.
It was a lot of them.
Yeah.
And you had colonies before then throughout the
Mhm.
entire thing.
Yeah, I thought
I was a little confused about that.
I was on your same wavelength, JJ. I thought that I was like, oh, this is how we found Gondor and whatnot, but clearly there's a lot more that needs to happen.
And
So
maybe this is where because it was talking about the one thing that I did find interesting was when the politician's son went to him and he was like, no, I would never give up on this opportunity because now we have this connection with a human king that we're going to set up. I thought that was a very interesting political take on something that you don't see a lot of in Tolkien is the politics of all of it. Outside of Gondor and a little bit with the Rohirrim, you don't see a lot of the politicking. So I thought that was a very interesting ad. And like you say, maybe this group is the one that found some of the colonies in Middle Earth, and then we'll have the big leave. Because, yeah.
And I'm also starting to wonder if we're ever actually going to see Sauron.
I don't think you do this season.
I don't know, because if we're going to even see him in the first couple seasons, because this little expeditionary force from Numenor is set up perfectly for the Southlands and the orcs that are with Adar.
Yeah.
Size-wise, everything, timing, perfectly set up to go in there. Halbrand becomes king again. starts rebuilding the Southlands. And I'm assuming Galadriel is going to continue her hunt for Sauron, thinking that he's no longer in the Southlands or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Like, I think shows always rush to give the big bag and ugly, and then the problem is once they have that, you really only can carry it for usually like 1 to 3 seasons. 3 if you're lucky. It's really like 1 to 2 at that point. And what do you do after that when the big bag ugly is defeated or the story concludes? So I'm for it, especially with this dark elf right now. Adar, like, compelling dude to say the least, and curious what his when he pulled out that his like orc aid and had put his arm out in the sun, and it was like, what does that feel like? And he said his little thing about, I'm gonna miss that, and you were like, well, you don't have to, and you don't have to make that light and sun go away. Like, I'm intrigued by his motivations and those things, and want to learn more about it. Like, I'm compelled by what he's presenting so far.
Yeah, he's a very interesting villain, and I liked, like you said, like I think that interaction was very interesting because it humanized him in a way, or at least made him relatable. Or I like when villains have, just like I like when heroes have flaws. I like when villains have flaws, and they have second guessing themselves, and they have doubts and things like that with maybe where they're going. So I like realistic villains and heroes, and so far everything's pretty on point with that. So I'm liking that. I like where we're headed there. I am curious. So we have the weapon, this sword or whatever the hell it is that Theo has, and now his mom knows about it, and the elf knows about it, and I don't know why I can never remember his name. Harandir. So they know about it. They're looking at it. What the hell? So we get the white, like, I guess the light version or the part that's built into the tower. Like, how are those connected? Like, I don't know. Did they explain it in any kind of way, or did I just miss it?
They didn't really explain it. It was just, I think that was a carving of the sword, kind of originally meant as a warning about what this sword is. And I was wondering if Adar is maybe chasing some kind of prophecy or glory, and creating orcs, trying to set him up as this dark lord, but trying to be better than Sauron, because he got pissed when the old guy thought he was Sauron,
right?
And he went off the deep end. And his orcs are like bigger and faster than the ones we see in the Third Age. At least they appear to be.
Yeah.
So he's making his own breed of orcs. I wonder if he's trying to set himself up as the Lord of Mordor in place of Sauron. Since Sauron
how do you make your own orcs?
Same way you make anything else.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, they did that, but it's so confusing. I guess they never really explain how it's done, but you just have dark magic and you can blend. Yeah, that's crazy. Scary.
Yeah, I don't think it would be too far of a stretch now that you're talking about that, Alec, that he could be. We assume that Adar is part of Sauron's group. He could just be a follower of Morgoth that's trying to pick up the pieces before Sauron's even involved. Because if Sauron's where he should be, in theory, he should be in human form over with, at least in an area that he can start to help to manipulate Celebrimbor. So I think it would make sense if we're not even looking at the remnants of Sauron or the start of Sauron's army, but we're looking at a remnant of Morgoth and his follower, in which case, and the fact that if this blade at some point was Elven or even Maiar or Valar, you know what I mean? Coming from Morgoth, or there's a connection there from the First Age. I mean, he would have been around to know about it, right? And maybe Morgoth got a hold of it. Maybe it was a sword from Fëanor. I mean, it could be anything. And Morgoth got a hold of it and corrupted it. And now Adar's after it. Like, that would make a lot of sense. So
that's the thought I had, because it's carved on the stone. You don't carve things in stone unless it's usually a warning or monument. And Arondir was like, "Oh shit, I've seen this before."
Interesting.
But he still didn't know what it was. He just had seen the carving at the tower.
Yeah. And the fact that they say it's a key, that Arondir says it's a key of some sort. Yeah. I mean, that tower, I'm assuming, goes back to the first age, right? With Morgoth. And
it looks old enough.
Yeah. And maybe in somewhere in this whole first age battle down in the south or whatever, maybe that's the whole maybe it's Sauron that's trapped there. Maybe that's to unlock and free Sauron is you need that handle. So I mean, that could be any number of things. Maybe that's where his soul, his spirit, or whatever's trapped. It could be any number of things. But so there was a theory out there, and I want to run this by you guys because I caught it earlier today, and I was like, "Whoa, I didn't even think about that." And then we got a comment from Charles that I'll throw out there. I don't know how I feel about this particular comment, but we'll see how it goes.
Wait, is this the Charles?
This is the Charles.
Oh,
Bell.
Charles, real time, Charles. I'm gonna hold my words here for a moment.
There you go. So what if Halbrand is Sauron?
Makes sense. I'd follow the lore. Sauron, Smith.
I've never seen a Smith do that before.
Does not trust him, and she did not trust Anatar when she first met him.
Mm-hmm.
He almost inexplicably really does not want to go back to the Southlands.
Yeah.
Which has absolved him of any superstition or suspicion, I guess, of who he is.
Yeah, which would be a Sauron type thing, right? Like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back.
Oh, okay, I'll go back.
Okay, I'll come back. I'll be part of the team. Let's go. So it's an intriguing. Yeah, I'm intrigued. He survived some pretty gnarly shit on the Sundering Seas. Like, yeah. I don't know that I buy it. I'm more likely to believe that he becomes the Witch King, but I could also see that being the case. He's Anatar or a different face for Sauron.
Yeah.
So
100% I could see it happening.
Be a nice twist. I almost wish I hadn't seen that theory in my feed pop up because that would have been cool. Anyway.
You know who you probably saw it from? Charles. Probably ruined it. Damn Charles, always stirring shit up.
I know.
Charles, good to have you on here. JJ, you want to bring up Charles' comment here?
Yeah.
JJ, how do we feel about this? Because you already know we're all for it. Alec and I don't even need approval from us.
Not just any wizard, Gandalf. We want him dressed up as Gandalf.
I mean, I'm probably down. I'll do anything. I'm shameless.
I think we should make this happen. I don't know if you can get a costume. Well, Amazon Prime, you probably get something there next week. Charles's next comment. I think, Charles, being a man of the people, the common folk, I really relate with you here. He says, joking aside, it's been a bit difficult to follow the Rings of Power since I'm not well versed in JRR's novels. So absolutely, I'm of this boat where I've read these novels. I've read The Hobbit as well, but I am clearly not well versed in the lore and most of these characters and things. I know nothing about what we're venturing into, and Charles, as you listen to us, you can probably clearly relate to me. I still like what I'm seeing on screen from the storylines, the visuals, and everything, but I don't really know what's happening. And to be fair, when I originally went through the Lord of the Rings, I didn't really know what was happening either till I read things after the fact, and it was okay. I mean, I still was perfectly enthralled and loved it. So I'm just kind of taking things as they come, and I think at times that can be refreshing and fun, whereas JJ and Alec, you guys know, at times can ruin things for themselves because they know things that they wish they didn't know, and many a times I'm happy that I'm not in that bucket.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Up until episode 4, Alec and I was pissed, because I was so distracted by the lore and where we were in the timeline it was really messing with me, and I didn't enjoy the first 3 episodes. In fact, I went back and watched them before this. I watched all 5 episodes yesterday because I was like, I gotta freaking check this out when I'm not biased by the fact that I'm distracted. So yeah, I'm with Alec and I. I'm sure both of us have that issue. So,
But coming back to Charles'
envious of the real
request,
Ginge for a minute.
Charles, I think that was a yes from JJ. So when you do join Patreon, hit JJ with that email, or he may just know anyways. But JJ, let's make it happen.
There's got to be like a threshold, right? So like if Charles joins, cool, but he also gets stuff for being a patron at that point. Like,
Yeah, you dressing up as Gandalf.
no, like I'm saying, so like, is it 3? When we get 5 patrons? Is it when we get? I mean, I'll do it.
Charles is about to sign up his whole family.
Oh God, I love it. I'll think on it. How about that? But yes, at some point I will. If you want for the season finale, I'll dress up like a wizard. And then Charles does say, "Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work."
That's a fair compromise.
Yeah, I'll make that compromise. We join Patreon at the season finale. I'll dress up like a wizard.
Charles, we appreciate your support, but I will say, I was hoping for, because man, you've put me through the ringer personally. I've sat my butt on my couch for more than a few hours thinking about you and what I wanted to do to you, but we love you as well.
I love it. It's true. All right. Well, I like this episode overall, though. I think it's a good midway point, a little more than midway point. Charles joining now. I love it. Yes. There's some cool perks, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Besides just me dressing up like a wizard, apparently. What the hell did I get myself into?
I will say with this episode, I could have done less, or would be excited with less Isildur.
Yeah, he's annoying.
I mean, at this point, he was taken by his dad to go fight Sauron, because if he left him alone in Gondor, he would have burned down the joint.
Yeah. Which I also didn't understand that whole dynamic of like the politician's kid. Like, what was he doing? Like, it seemed like he was on board with his pops at that point, and then apparently he wasn't. Like,
female persuasion, JJ.
Well, I mean, sure, that's fair. Touche. Well played. I take out the fact that
there's been many things that have been done in movie lore and just real life. That's all you have to say.
There was a vagina involved. I get it. That's all you have to say. I'll blow up a boat too for the right one. I'm down. Yeah. Interesting show. I'm excited. I can't. Is there only 8 or are there 10 episodes? I don't remember.
I think there's 10.
I think there's 2. I hope there's 10 because I'm enjoying it. So
once I got the timeline figured out, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Once I got past episode 4, I was down. So much fun.
Oh, absolutely. So, and Doran continues to be
the best. Greatest character in the show.
Oh my gosh, the stupid stone table.
Oh my God, it was epic. And I knew too. Like as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh, he's messing with them so much right now. And then it was just perfect the way he told Elrond. Like, I was just like, oh, that's great.
Disa needs a new table.
Yeah.
For our listeners, there's actually only 8 episodes.
Oh, son of a bitch. Means we only got 3 episodes left. At least we'll match up with She-Hulk. 1 episode for each.
Oh, my gosh.
That's the trade-off. 3 shitty ones and 3 good ones, hopefully. Yeah, overall, great episode. I think there were some things where I was like you said, I could have done less Isildur. I want more of the Harfoots, but I feel like they can't give us more without giving away too much about the stranger. But what I saw the stranger, I enjoyed. The weird ice power. That's another one to think about with him being a Maiar, especially with the Man in the Moon, because each of the Maiar typically have their own power that's their strength. They all have some serious magic, but like Gandalf's was fire. Radagast was earth kind of thing, they typically have an element of some sort that they deal with as a main. Now they have many powers that cross over, but I thought that was interesting with the ice and the way he slammed the ground and sent those wolves flying. It was pretty cool. I'm liking where we're going with that. So those wolves were ugly as balls too. I was like, I wouldn't want to get chomped on by one of those things.
No, that's gross,
dirty. All right, well, we ready to move on to House of the Dragon?
Let's do it. So.
Perfect. Those of y'all watching us live, we're gonna do our little outro here for future video for YouTube when we break it down, and then the episode after the fact for the podcast. And then so just bear with us if you're watching live. Hang out. We'll be back to talk more about that. But before we go anywhere, Mattson, tell everybody where they can find us.
Hey, you can find us wherever good podcasts can be found at What's Our Verdict Reviews. If you want to listen, check us out on YouTube and Facebook for our live shows on Monday for Rings of Power and obviously House of the Dragon. And then on Thursdays, we're doing Andor. You can check us out on social media on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, most especially at What's Our Verdict. Our website is under construction as we revamp it. So if you do visit right now, Charles, you especially, it says coming soon, but we're excited for the facelift that's happening as we speak. Otherwise, we appreciate you guys listening to the podcast. Hit that follow, like, or subscribe. And also, Patreon, some really cool content that we're offering there. Most specifically, we have 3 different tiers. First tier for $3 a month is kind of voting rights on what we'll review actually on a month-to-month basis, and a lot of our outros and behind-the-scenes content. There's quite a few. It's pretty juicy. $5 per month. We've got those voting rights again. Everything that I just mentioned, along with vote on what we do for our crazy, cool, dumb shit episodes, as well as trailer reaction videos, which we're pretty excited about. And then the final one, have all those previous things, and you get a shout out and credits during our episodes and live shows. So if you want to get made fun of or put on a pedestal because we love you, we're down to do that. As well as helping us where you get to suggest a movie for us to review on a quarterly basis that you pick. We don't even have a choice. Basically what Charles has done to us in the past.
Yeah, and that will be a patron exclusive episode too.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. Good call.
Yeah. So when you do pick that, it will be patron exclusive. So whatever you want to pick, you'll have access to it as a patron, and that's
so you can expect me to really, unless it's a good movie, I'm really coming after you. Whoever suggested that, so
yeah,
we'll be frenemies.
And you'll get my most vulgar self, which is usually when I'm the funniest. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, thanks, Mattson. With that, again, if you're live, hang out with us. If not, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye. But not really bye.
Cinemagic out. Whoa! Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast. We fashion ourselves television judge and jury. My name's JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Mattson Heiner.
Better red than dead.
Alec Burgess.
Let's get it.
I'm impressed at how good that actually turned out. I'm not doing it because it'll sound like crap, and I'm not ruining it. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for joining us. We are here live. We're talking about the Rings of Power and now the House of the Dragon. So hang out with us. Let's chit-chat about it. But before you do that, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe, bell notification button. Follow us. Whatever it is that keeps you coming back for more, hit that button. We appreciate it. Tell your friends about us. Helps grow the podcast. We appreciate that. So let's talk House of the Dragon. We had the big time jump, 10 years. We had the actor changes. It almost felt like a whole new pilot.
I'm not really a fan about a lot of the actor changes, to be honest. I miss the younger ones.
Yeah, I really maybe it's this is hard for me because I like this show, and I was just getting into forgiving all the mistakes of the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones. And just as I was getting comfortable with this show and enjoying it a lot, we get this weird change up. And I realize why we get it. And I'm not saying that they're not good. It's just that it's jarring to me. I really liked the young Rhaenyra. I didn't really care I didn't care either way about Alicent, but I really liked the younger Rhaenyra, and I don't know how I feel about the older one.
That's exactly kind of what I was into. And then we had like Kristen Cole didn't change, same actor.
Yeah. And he didn't even
And
look
so I was
older. He
like,
just got a haircut.
yeah. So I was sitting there going, I was like, why?
He got more dickish though.
That's fair.
Yeah. But you had,
He's an asshole.
Rhaenyra and Alicent, who two completely different people, changed so much, and then Kristen Cole didn't. He just
They could have combed in some more gray. I think that would have been appropriate.
Yeah, I think they could have done a number of things because even Harwin Strong, like Breakbones, he's
different.
the same actor, but they thinned his hair out and like put some gray in his beard. Very different from the guy that beat the hell out of everybody at the wedding, right? Like it was just like, why is he? But yeah, that's a great point. Why is Kristen Cole not changed?
But we should say King Viserys, like, the dude looked like he aged 100 years, and they hit that one on the head. I was like, man, they know how to make someone look like two drinks away from death or something.
Yeah, he looks rough. So the rumor is that what he has is leprosy. So that's kind of why he's constantly got the sores, things like that. They haven't, obviously in the show, they haven't confirmed that, but I was reading that's what they've the showrunners have kind of said. It's a form of leprosy. So we'll see how that goes.
I would have given him grayscale. Same thing.
Right? The problem is that they give him grayscale, he can't be around anyone. They'll isolate him because they don't have a...
Same thing with leprosy.
Fair. That's fair. Touche.
Hey, leprosy in their universe is different than the Bible.
Yeah, it's grayscale.
There you go. It's called grayscale. I love it. And maybe it is grayscale, and they've just been so busy peeling all the skin and infection away that it never actually manifested as
solidified.
Yeah, as grayscale itself, because we learned from Mormont that you can just peel that shit off and you're good.
But well, you were talking about JJ. I was trying to think when we were getting ready for this podcast of a TV show or a movie to an extent, a little easier to think about, but a TV show where you had like a character that was pretty well liked, being Rhaenyra, and then all of a sudden just gone because the age change, and it's hard to come back from that because I don't really like the new Rhaenyra as well, but it's not really that actor's fault or anything. It's just her mannerisms, her level of delivery and things. It's not I think what's hardest to me is young Rhaenyra's kind of arrogance and attitude and confidence and kind of mischievousness did not translate to the older Rhaenyra, in my opinion. She was much more just kind of straightforward, a little bit more black and white in her emotions, in my opinion, and I left me wanting more, and it's going to be hard to kind of... I'm sure I will forget it, especially if this is Rhaenyra we have for multiple seasons, but yeah, just hard, and I don't think they set themselves up for success there, but was there really another way? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get it, because I don't know that you could have drug out this season, because I think ideally,
I guess you could have done
a full
that, like,
season
sure,
of the younger actresses and actors, but I don't know that there's enough story to do it without it feeling forced, because the one thing that I will give these showrunners with this content is so far they've really stuck to the source material and what's written in Fire and Blood. And I like that they're filling in some gaps, and kind of one of the things that they're doing is it seems like where the book itself comes from like a third party or three different third party perspectives, with the perspective of all three of them are coming from a perspective of the typical vision or point of view of the kingdom at the time, right? So very heavy male perspective, focused on the males. That's why they talk a lot about King Viserys and his reign. They talk a lot about the sons of Rhaenyra and Alicent. And then they mention Alicent and Rhaenyra because Rhaenyra is the heir apparent, and you have Alicent, has given the king two sons. So it's one of those things where, but we're seeing in this show, it's more about the women. So it's a different perspective than the book. So they're filling in some of the gaps as well, but they're really sticking to the source material quite well, which I like. So I don't know that they could have done a full season with the younger without kind of filling in gaps that they would have been making things completely up. So I'm okay with it. But to your point, Mattson, usually in a movie, you get like 15, 20 minutes of a young. We've got 6 hours or 5 hours of these younger actors and their perspectives and how they are. And you're right. I think my problem with Rhaenyra is she doesn't translate as well. Alicent, it felt like a smoother transition for me because the actress acted she continued on with that, being pissed at Rhaenyra and her situation of being this old king's wife that's constantly wondering how the future is going to go because her son's not the heir, and so she's constantly having to worry about what her dad told her and the queen, the princess coming after her kids, and she seemed like she was in the same place. But Rhaenyra seemed, even up until the point, like I was okay with the change at the end where it's like, screw this, I'm not doing this anymore. Let's get the hell out of here. We're going to go do our own thing. But it just felt like she wasn't, because Rhaenyra always struck me as kind of smart, just very young. Rhaenyra was smart, but she made some rash decisions that got her in trouble. This one seems like her whole life is a giant rash decision followed up with stupid decisions.
Yeah, she's just flaunting her, like, maybe cloak and dagger a little bit more than like I thought they would have at least tried to have a kid together, and attempt that, even if, he clearly is not interested in her and him, but do what they said at the beginning for the sake of the realm and their people. But it doesn't, I mean, maybe she did, but it doesn't seem like she really cared. And it's like, wow, you're like really just flaunting it to the kingdom and those that know, like, hey, I don't care. This is who I'm banging and I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Yeah. But that aside, still an interesting show. And I'm really enjoying Larys Strong, the clubfoot. That guy's
little weasel.
Yeah, but Littlefinger did some dumb shit. Stop it. Now I want to go watch that movie. Littlefinger did some gnarly shit, but this guy burned his own brother and dad down, like, just to win favor with the queen. Like, damn.
Well, not win favor, blackmailer.
Well, that too. Yeah, like. Yeah, you're kind of stuck at this point.
Yeah,
he clearly didn't really like his brother and dad if he's willing to do that. Like, jeez.
Yeah,
he's the most Game of Thrones part of this show, because I was actually thinking earlier in the episode, I was like, "Where's all the cloak and dagger, or the knife in the dark type of stuff?" And it showed up later, but at the beginning, I was like, "You could solve this succession problem really easy.
Yeah.
Hire a gray man.
Yeah,
job done."
Yep.
But they're just perfectly content as it is to argue back and forth and, jostle for position instead of just, knife in the dark. And guess what? We got a new queen or new king.
Yeah. Well, and what is it with these knuckleheads that can't control themselves? Like, seriously, Breakbones has to know at this point that he's in a tenuous position. Like, the queen has 3 children that do not look anything like her husband, like nothing like her. Like, and the fact that the king is just blindly pretending he doesn't see the difference, like, even to the point of, I mean, he's kind of a smart old weirdo because in the very first thing, he's like, oh, I think he's even got his dad's nose. Like, because you can't, what are you going to do? Argue with the king? Hell no. The dude he just told you, you're not going to say that this isn't my daughter's and my son-in-law's kid, so bite me. And because he doesn't want to deal with that, right? So, but there's no way that anybody has any question about that. So why, as being Breakbones now, and this whole thing where he loses his mind and beats the hell out of Kristen Cole, that isn't in the book. Like, they gave that perspective there, right? So it's like they added that as flavor, because all you get in the book is that Harwin and his dad got burnt up at Harrenhal and nobody actually knew. There were rumors and there were this, that, and the other. So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it was just like, wowza. So now this one's interesting too. So Sorry if I screw up your name. Shantez Adkins brings up a great point here. Nobody cared but the queen. It's not wrong. Everybody gave some side-eye looks, right? But the only one that cared is Allison. So it's a great point because she's all pissed for a number of reasons. But
Well, because her moral compass has now been compromised to an extent, so she's got dirt or blood or whatever you want to say on herself, and you just wonder where that's going to take her. Because you look at like Cassian, who clearly has become just a pompous ass dick and has leaned into it now that he's been kind of absolved. And does the queen kind of lean more into that, or does she try to correct her wrongs but overcorrect in the wrong way? Like, but I think that's where Game of Thrones is at its best. Is those back alley decisions.
yeah, and all the intrigue that nobody finds out about until it's too late, and you're like, damn it.
Well, when she was talking to what's his bucket, Clubfoot, talked about how bringing her dad back, it's not going to be non-partial decisions, but they're going to be partial to her now. Like that's all she's after. She wants decisions to be in her favor, rather than them being, non-partial or just kind of the right decision. She wants them to favor her now.
Sure. Well, and I don't envy her, right? Because the king's always going to protect his heir, and it's his only kid from his original marriage. Which I loved the part in the show where all this shit's going sideways, and you see him in his room crying over over Emma's ring. You're like, oh God, it's just, I don't like Allison, but you have to kind of feel for her in a way because she's in just this terrible place. Like her dad shoved her into this marriage for power, and now she's stuck in this position where, like she told her kid, like she told Aemon, or Aegon, you are the problem, right? Like you're gonna be targeted, period, because you're the threat, period. Which that whole scene was a little weird. Like I mean, I get
that
what
was
they're trying
so
to show.
Weird.
Like Aegon, like I felt like they were trying to have like a the boys moment, like, but it was just like, look, there were other ways you could show Aegon as a weird dick.
I was worried that they're gonna have
window.
Old Game of Thrones moment where, like him and the mom, she's like, oh, and he's like, oh, and I was just thankful that they went no.
Yeah,
that was weird.
Don't put it past Game of Thrones. Just saying.
I did laugh though because I think that's the same window that one of the Baratheon kids Common Baratheon jumped out of in Game of Thrones. But Shantez got another great comment here, right? Right? She's only stuck because of her father, and so now she's angry. Absolutely, she's angry, which is terrible too because now her dad's coming back. So who knows what other shitty positions he's gonna put him in? So.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to feel for her, but at the same time, it's like, gray man, invest. All your problems will go away.
Either that or like you had a choice. So in my brain, I'm like, make friends with her. Like all you had to do was be like, look, I didn't get to sleep around, but that doesn't mean that you can't, right? If you want to go bang your uncle, have fun. You want to bang your guard, have fun there too. Don't be jealous, because then this whole problem goes away if you're like best friends, right? Again,
I dare you to tell a woman to not be jealous, JJ. See what happens.
Sure. I mean, look, I say that, and in the same position, I'd be pissed. But just saying, it's an option, right?
I want to talk about Damon and Lena and that whole. It seems like he was. So why? Help me understand why he like in a different kingdom and he was a guest and they're trying to use him for the dragons and he's fine and happy with that because he want to deal with this past. Help me understand that a little bit more.
Sure. I'm going to drop some book knowledge on you here that'll help explain that. But first, Shantez confirms that it was the window that Tommen jumped out. I love it. That's a good point. She came up. Look, I love when the listeners and watchers jump in because Shantez got another one. Now the friendship was lost once she married her father. That's a fair point.
That would do it. Yeah.
I tend to forget that your best friend married your dad. That's your stepmom. That shit gets weird. Fair enough. Touche. You win. Okay, so Damon and Lena, in the book, Damon and Lena get married. They go have some kids. They go fly around on their dragons, and they travel the world on their dragons. She has Vagar. He's got whatever his Kavax, or I can't remember. Cavaxia. Anyway, it's something with a Vax in it. So they fly around and they go to all these places. Lease, they go to Tyrosh, they go to all these different places. And really, they did change their story in this. So Lena dies, but not until later. She actually has 3 kids, and then they go and they are at Dragonstone for years with Rhaenyra and Laenor. So they're hanging out. They become really good friends with Rhaenyra's family. So it's like this. And they're part of like the black group, right? So the blacks and the greens, they're on Dragonstone with them. Everybody's having a good time for years. Everybody's growing up together. And then there's Alicent and her and the king that are in King's Landing. There's a separation there. Now, Lena does die, but not in childbirth. She gets sick. I don't remember what happens, but she doesn't actually make it to Vagar. She tries to get to Vagar to take a last ride, but doesn't make it. So they kind of twisted that and change that story. I get why they need to truncate the timeline, move it forward so we continue with the story. And I like the way that Lena was like, screw this, I'm not going out this way. I'm going out like a dragon rider. And the other thing that I like about it is it parallels what Daemon was going through with his brother Viserys at the same time, because it's almost the exact same situation where Viserys made a joke, or Daemon made a joke about it and was a dick. And now he's in this situation with a woman that he actually loves and kids, and he has to have that same choice and conversation with this maester. And then his wife, Lena, takes things in her own hands. Says, I'm not doing this shit. So I really liked that parallel and how they tied that story together. I thought that was cool. That was a good change for me from the book. But that's where Daemon just didn't want to deal with it. He didn't want to deal with the politics. That's why they're out traveling, having a good time, because he can be his own thing. And again, she does convince him we're going to go back to Dragonstone, but that's why they stayed on Dragonstone, was to stay away from King's Landing. Rhaenyra didn't have the drama in Dragonstone. They just kind of did their thing out there because it's so far removed from the rest of the kingdom for the most part. Chuntez loved it. Me too. I thought that was the best part of this episode, to be honest.
I thought it was a pretty empowering decision and really impactful, and just showed her character and kind of her moxie in that regard. And I mean, I wouldn't want to die that way, but shoot, like,
yeah,
it's got to be quicker than going during childbirth.
Exactly.
I will never know because I can't give birth, but to those out there that have,
kudos.
Real deal.
That and Dragon's Fire is pretty gnarly shit, so it's not gonna. You're gonna get toast pretty quick. The other thing I want to talk about is these kids, bunch of little dicks.
You get when you have Targaryens.
Well, as they say, shocker. I mean, I think we all knew they weren't going to be the nice. But it's kind of interesting because it shows that there is some closeness there amongst the cousins, regardless, right? So even Aegon, who was kind of a jerk, as they're out on the yard before everything went sideways, like he was patting the littlest of Rhaenyra's kids on the back, right? Like, hey, go get him or whatnot, even though they were bumping into each other. So, it seemed to me like it was normal, healthy cousin feuds, right? Like I used to mess with my cousin. I tackled him one time and broke his collarbone, like shit. So I thought it was really interesting to see that. And then they were messing with the Aemon Targaryen with the freaking pig. I thought that shit was hilarious.
That was like, so mean.
I was like, that's messed up, but that's kid shit, right? Like that's what they do. So I thought it was interesting. Things aren't going to stay kind with those kids for long, but
can't imagine why.
Yeah. Well, no, they're going to take on, as you saw at the end when they do like the producers and stuff talk, like, and you think about it in your own life where you take on the beef that your parents have, like whenever siblings and parents and things have a dislike to someone else or a preference, like, and the kids hear those opinions and around it long enough, usually you take on what direction your family is going to go for, and it's really hard to break that mold and kind of rise above. And I don't think that's going to be happening here anytime soon.
No. No, it gets
We
ugly.
all want to give each other hugs. It's a really easy thing to do, but it's a lot more fun to be a dick.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's a good point. So Shantez brings up, they're right. They're only that way because of their parents. Absolutely. It's like the Hatfields and the McCoys back in the day, right? Like by the time that feud ended, nobody knew why it actually started to begin with.
Yep.
So it's one of those interesting things where we take on, like you said, our parents.
Well, it's a nature versus nurture thing. It's not like those kids were born to hate each other. They had to be bred into that with interaction after interaction and competition and jealousy and those things, and that's where the real world comes in, and it's not always a beautiful thing.
Yeah, unfortunately it's silly, the things that we learn from our
things
parents.
You can learn from the House of the Dragon. Yeah, taking it to the real world. So when you're a keyboard warrior out there, or something happens at work, or you got to call customer service, take a breath and remember that shit happens, and just be nice.
Yeah, I heard you say start a feud with people. That's all I heard. I heard when something goes bad, start a feud.
I can see that where you got that out of that, Alec. Like that seems like I can get that. I'm looking forward, really looking forward to further episodes. I really, really want to like the adult characters. Like I said, I have no problem with Allison because she seemed like the same character. I think I'm going to have to get used to the Rhaenyra. And again, it's not that the actress wasn't good. She was great. It was my prejudice towards the fact that I liked the young Rhaenyra so damn much that I'm having that hard time with that transition. So I'm hoping that next episode we've gotten past that, almost feels like a whole new pilot. I'm very interested to see what happens with the kids, how they're going to play that story out, because we're on the cusp where we're at to some really interesting things getting started. I'm also very interested to see what they're going to do, how they're going to handle the Laenor Daemon situation, because that shit gets weird real quick too. Especially now that Laena's out of the way, because Laena was the only thing that kept that shit from getting weird for a long time in the book. So because Daemon really did love Laena, so she was their kindred spirits. But anyway, I'm really interested. I've enjoyed it so far. Like I said, if I can get past the weird transition from the younger to the older, I think I'll be fine. But I'm more and more on board, even though I had some issues with the original Game of Thrones last 2 seasons for sure. Cool. Wow, man, House of the Dragon.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, it was fun. Shantez, thanks for joining us. We love it when you leave the comments. This is our favorite thing. This is why we do the lives. It's a lot of fun. We enjoy it. The interaction is a lot of fun. Being able to see your guys' thoughts, and so we appreciate you sharing, taking the time to put those comments and join us. Thanks for the love on Facebook too. We appreciate, love getting hearts next to our posts. So thank you so much. Thank you for that too. She said she's gonna follow and share. Definitely, feel free to go back YouTube. We got all sorts of stuff. You can check out old episodes of our silly shenanigans and crazy opinions, and we've been doing this for a while now, so we got some interesting shit out there in the ether. But yeah, so speaking of that, Mattson, tell everybody where else they can find us.
Yeah, if you want to find us, first and foremost, you can find us wherever good podcasts can be found at What's Our Verdict Reviews, Spotify, Apple, you name it. Check us out on our social media, most especially with TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at What's Our Verdict. You can also tune in on our live shows on Mondays for House of the Dragon and Rings of Power, and on Thursdays for Andor currently. We're whipping up our October slate for some horror movies and things settling into the Halloween time period we're excited for. Our website at whatsourverdict.com is currently under a facelift at the moment. We're excited about that when it comes back. But if you want to interact with us outside of that, please feel free to email us at hosts@whatsourverdict.com. Feel free to suggest some stuff to us or just chime in. And then lastly, we just kicked off our Patreon. So a lot of what JJ remarked on, a lot of our archived episodes or outtakes or funny things, there's 3 different levels there. Encourage you to take a look. We'd love to interact with you there and give you some bonus content.
Yeah, lots of exclusive content on the way. we're excited about that. So, yeah, it's been a fun episode, gentlemen. And again, thanks for joining us live. Shantez, anyone else that's been listening, sorry again if I butchered your name. I'm really bad at that, but it's entertaining as hell to watch me get through it. With that, join us next time. See you Monday. If the storm don't, I love it.
Be safe down there with that hurricane if it comes out.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't tear down the phone lines. We want you here next Monday. We're gonna talk some more of this craziness that's going on, and as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinemagic out.
Whoa!